Are we there? Are we there yet? No! Are we there yet? No! Are we there yet? No! Find somewhere to set my little beverage there. Well, what is up, everybody? I'm going to give you a few minutes to filter on in. I'm going to make sure that this is actually going on the phony thingy here. Yeah, you see, that's what happens when you get the wrong notification. Let's make sure this is actually going. I hope it's going. I think I made it public. Okay, that's a little more like it. Boy, that photo is super dark. My God. Oh, that's why. Give me a sec, everybody. I swear, the lighting, even when I have tons of lighting, is like legit rough in this place. And there's at least a few. Oh, Jacob, my dude, you were the first to arrive, it looks like. Yeah, there was some streaming issues. I was trying to, like, YouTube just set up this beta camera kind of thing, and I was initially trying to go through the stream beta. I was having issues with that, so I had to switch to my internal webcam. So that's the thing. When Cecil does the primary amount of the streaming on his, in the Horror Show Studios, this is done from Casa en Fuego, as I so affectionately call it, or Casa Calahante, otherwise known as, or the Chiron Cavern. So, yeah, this is from my home offices and stuff. So, yeah, but let's, I'm going to get this up and running and make sure there's no flipping sound going either. And then I will start this out proper and get to the live chat, or the hell that is. There you are, live chat. Okay. And once again, we got Jacob here, and yeah, that's right, my buddy Malito. All right. Well, I guess as opposed to beating around the bush, I know that you two dudes are on the other side of the planet, practically, from me. And that's why I was actually starting this stream like right when I ran home from the day job, as opposed to, just waiting a few hours like I had initially done previously. I've been trying to do these monthly book club things in the afternoon my time, so that even if it is like 8, 10, 12 hours ahead, whatever insane amount of time that it may be, I always want to at least give y'all the chance to filter through and all that jazz. So I hope all of the different potential stream options didn't confuse the hell out of everybody, but I'm kind of worried that that is in fact the case, and it is just so flippin' dark in here. It is legit ridiculous. I almost feel like I want to change the lighting up a little bit because it is just so stinking dark. I wonder. Let me. I hope that's a little bit better, a little bit more varied. Maybe, kinda, sorta, hopefully. That's a little more evenly dispersed, right? It at least looks better on my screen, not by an immense amount. But hey, guys, in any event, I'm not gonna waste y'all's time. I'm stoked to see the both of you, and I will allow everybody else to filter in. So I guess I will do the cliche little opener here. All right, this is where I'm gonna chop the video down from for anybody who watches it after the fact, so they don't have to see all of those technical difficulties. Because this was supposed to start like almost an hour ago. But in any event. Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers, along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you join me here for a bit of palaver on Hail to Stephen King. That's right, my favorite author, as I all too often say, and this is the 147th episode of Hail to Stephen King, my favorite author, as you see from that tower of tomes that is... just kind of lurking there behind me. And yes, we are approaching episode 150 very, very soon, as a matter of fact. It's crazy. It really feels like episode 100 was just like a couple months ago. And I guess it was a couple months ago. It was last September, if I recall correctly. But yeah, in any event, as I approach that, we are doing the March Book of the Month Club discussion, which is all about none other than The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. And I actually have two different copies of that here. because this is the one and only time where Stevie K did a pop-up book. That's right. And I'm going to be like going through this at one particular point. I'm honestly thinking, since it's a pretty quick read, at some point in the discussion here, I might actually just try to read through this, because it is like, check this out, y'all. The pop-up book is pretty badass, and it's really just a condensed version of the story. Like, here she is where she finds the car all beaten up and broken down and stuff, and she's like, should I sleep in that? No, probably not. And so yeah, this is just such a cool friggin' book, man. It's been a minute since I've looked at it, honestly. And yeah, but in any event, so this is a discussion for the 20th anniversary, all about The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. And this was originally going to be a, I guess, children's book that Steve was working on. And lo and behold, what ended up happening? Well, he didn't want to cave to like the throngs of the censors and whatnot. I guess there was just a couple bits of language here and there, and like a theme or two that just really was found to be off-putting by a few different peeps. And so for that reason, nope, it ended up being like just classified as a regular novel. Although for me, it's barely over 200 pages. It's like 2 and some change. I want to say like 215 or 220, something like that. Yeah, 219 pages. Ha ha, 219. It's 2019. There's some peeps starting to creep through. That is awesome to see. We've got Brady jumping in. There's Curtis. Is that a pop-up? This is actually not Cemetery Dance. This, I believe, was done by what's his Little Simon here. So I'm actually going to be going through this page by page and showing you guys this, since it's a pretty brief story. There's not like tons and tons to discuss in it. But yeah, so Brady is here. Warhead Records. Why hasn't this book been adapted to film? That's actually a really good question, because George Romero had the rights, I think, shortly after its publication in March of 1999. And then lo and behold, the rights lapsed. And so it has still never been turned into a film. For my money, I think that this, it would have to be a really short film, since there's not like a ton to it. It could be like a 85, 90-minute film, or it could be, I don't know, maybe this would serve better as like an anthology installment. Probably wouldn't work as well for Creepshow, but you know, hey, maybe for the upcoming Twilight Zone or something like that. Honestly, this could even work on Amazing Stories, for the sheer fact that it's not super scary except for a few different parts. And so, yeah, shortly before his accident in '99, Cy King published this very short, it's classified as a novel, but I still would say it's a novella, or it's a novelette. That was a discussion on the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group just the other day, where people were just discussing the merits and the, you know, like what denotes something as being a novel versus a novella versus a novelette. I think a novella and a novelette are pretty much the same thing, at least in my estimation. But the topic of discussion all came about because of, I think somebody asked about Blockade Billy, if I remember correctly. Blockade Billy was originally published as a very small, just almost like what they did with Elevation. So Cemetery Dance published this tiny little like novella, novelette kind of thing. But, you know, where does it go from short story into novella territory? I'm honestly not super sure. But Philip Roberts has just jumped on. What up, Fuego? Love your video and keep up the great work. And what is your favorite horror movie and monster? And what is your favorite Stephen King book? Keep it scary. Well, I mean, I was going to try to keep the predominance of the conversation all about The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. But yeah, if you guys have a question of any sort, honestly, that you want to throw out, these always do end up delving and turning into a AMA at, you know, whatever particular point. There's some peeps rolling through. All right, CTL, Euro College, long days and pleasant nights, and may yours be twice as long. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, if I'm at least going to answer that real quick, favorite Stephen King book, there's a whole video that I did about my 3 favorite Stephen King books. I don't foresee those ever changing, and although they do all change positions, like they're kind of in a 3-way tie. I very ceremoniously call them the unholy trinity, and it's Pet Sematary, and The Stand. Depending on which one I'm kind of reading at the time, I find that, you know, they all have their merits, and whereas Pet Sematary is bleak as fuck and just dark and crazy, and has that really nasty Bachman type ending, The Stand is the uplifting, hopeful ending, even if it does say that things are cyclical, and the extended ending that we get in the uncut. But still, it gives that shimmering light, that silver lining, that gray, that, you know, just hope that King is so notorious for. But then obviously you've got It, which is somewhere in between, and It honestly it's very melancholy and bittersweet in the fact that their memories of their friends are fading halfway through. But so yeah, that's the Unholy Trinity. Those are my top 3, and I'm going to leave it at that as I jump into discussion about the girl who loved Tom Gordon. I'm hopeful that there's at least a few peeps. I know Jacob read this if he's still hanging around, and I know it's super late over in the UK, man. I'm not sure if Malito read this, otherwise known, the artist also known as Leroy Buchanan. But yeah, so The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, this short little thing was published by King. Film rights went to George Romero. It's still never been adapted. And it's essentially about this girl named Trisha, who she has parents who have just divorced. And this is for all who did not read the book. Parents have just divorced. And essentially her mom has been trying to do these outdoor excursions with her and the older brother. The older brother is mad about the relocation from Massachusetts to rural Maine, just a smaller place where nobody likes him. Back home, where his father still is, he was like king of the computer club, and you know, he wasn't considered cool, but he at least had little droogies and friends and stuff like that. He's an outcast at the new school. Trisha is a lot younger, though. She's a few years younger. She's 9 years old and big for her age, as they nailed down countless times in all of the discussion here. And so mom has she's doing the typical weekend thing, and she's taking the 2 of them to hike the Appalachian Trail, which goes through Maine and New Hampshire and, just a decent little chunk of New England. And she stops to, she stops for a break while mom and brother keep walking and arguing and paying zero attention to her. And she gets lost. And it's really a very simple story. I was surprised that as I brought this book up, when I said, yes, it's the 20th anniversary and it's going to be the March book of the month, there was a lot of peeps who were just like, that's my least favorite Stephen King book. And I still think it's better than, Dreamcatcher and Bag of Bones, but it's definitely not a personal favorite. It would rank, it's probably somewhere in my 5 least favorite, but I do like it for its simplicity. And I do definitely think that King just wrote a very sweet little heartwarming story. And there are a few points in it that I think are quite compelling, especially as the threat, essentially, that Trisha encounters as she is making her way through this forest and stuff and through this wilderness of sorts. Once you get the development of that, that's where the story actually becomes a little bit more interesting and a little beyond a girl just trying to, a 9-year-old girl lost in the woods trying to, survive through the elements and stuff. And so, yeah, that's about the long and the short of it. There's a few interesting flashbacks to one in particular that I have to mention right off the bat. And I made a few notes on the phone about this so just to keep in mind, besides the pop-up book, which I'm going to go through at a particular point here in the reading, also the novella, but besides reading both of these this past month, I also listened, because it's so short and it was only like 6 hours, I listened to the audiobook, which is read by none other than former Mrs. Ellen DeGeneres, Anne Heche. And she does a damn good job reading the book, I gotta say. And so I'm really stoked to have all 3 of these incarnations of the story. And yeah, the pop-up book, I look forward to showing you guys just the internal components of this. I briefly gave a peek at it when I was showing off my Hail to Stephen King, like my whole King collection. Back when I was on the old set, I did a whole video where I was showing my rare King stuff and just the cool things that I'm proud of to have in my collection. One of which is this. It's pretty badass. But so a few themes that I thought were cool that they actually explored in this. So once Trisha gets lost, they say many times early on about the fact that, her mom and her brother, they don't even notice she's gone for quite a while. And then in turn, as you would imagine, just a big search ends up coming underway. And there is somebody who places a fake call at one particular point saying that she has been kidnapped by some, guy who was a former chomo, child kidnapper, whatever. And it's a weird fake call. And this is going to be kind of a spoiler discussion, y'all, just to give any forewarning, just in case you were interested in checking out this book. Full disclosure here, I'm just going to be kind of shooting from the hip and all that jazz. But yeah, so we never really get a full-on revelation or explanation as to why this particular person called in the fake report. It's really, really on the weird side. But yeah, so over the course of the time when she's lost, she really, where's the notes? Okay, so first off, she encounters a snake, which is interesting. Then there's another instance where she envisions falling off this cliff as she's trying to go down. She ends up finding, after she's off the trail, she ends up finding a stream, and she gets all little house with it. And it's like, if I just follow the stream will eventually take me to something. And she just follows the stream for a while as she's being stung by wasps and, trying to avoid poison ivy and oak and all of these different things. But the scene that I really wanted to discuss, and it's the one that really, some may think it feels out of place, but I really feel like it's almost like a snapshot of a king and Naomi, his daughter, just kind of recollection of his. And it's where she's at the house with her father, and this is it's a flashback, but it's presumably a flashback to post-divorce parents hanging out with her father. She has a treat. He's had a couple beers, and she ends up basically asking her father if he believes in God. And he says, "I don't believe in God, but I believe in the subaudible." And he gives this extensive explanation about the subaudible being where it's almost like a humming of sorts, like from a piece of machinery or something like that, that you get so adjusted to just the sound of it and the fact that it's there and it's constantly going that you almost lose sight of it. And in turn, you grow so accustomed to it that you just ignore it. And he basically explains that that's how he looks at God, as being the equivalent of the subaudible, and that he doesn't necessarily think God has an essence of personhood where, he would deliberately and conscientiously, punish people for doing wrong things and send them to a hell that he created and all these different things. But he does believe that there are things that happen in this world that are not by accident. For instance, all the drunk teens who drive back from the prom, only a handful of them get into accidents and die. Of the fact that we possess nuclear weapons and yet none have used them since 1945. At the time of the writing of this book, he's like over 6 decades. That's crazy. The fact that nobody has used one since the 40s, that really shows that maybe there is some sort of extensive upper presence. And it really, in a lot of ways, it's funny with the fact that, King's daughter ended up becoming a minister. But it kind of in some ways emphasizes and explains a similar belief that I have, because of the fact that I am not I was raised Reformed Baptist, a subsect of a subsect. My dad's a private school Bible teacher. Both of my parents are very devout Christians, but I am not. I had a time in the sun where I was going around saying, "Oh, I'm an atheist, I don't believe in anything." But as time wore on, I just looked at the majesty and just the meticulous construction of this planet, and and the universe in general, and I just cannot fathom this coming to be by accident. So many of these different things, but I don't necessarily think any particular religion has it right. I think there might be some on the right track, and for that reason, I believe in a higher power. I'm an agnostic, and so on. So it's some may say it's a cop-out explanation, but I feel like it's a heartwarming discussion, between father and between daughter. But the real essence of this, and the fact that Tom Gordon, and it's very befitting that we're discussing this when we are, and I think King released it when he did for a very specific reason, because March is when spring training is going on. I'm here in the Arizona desert, and I'm not a big baseball fan at all. Often I'd rather watch paint dry than watch baseball. But I know King is a diehard baseball fan. And Tom Gordon was a relief pitcher in the late 90s for the Red Sox. He had like 40-something straight saves in this one season, and then he blows it in the ALCS and gives up a bunch of runs early on and loses the game and ends their season for them. So Tom Gordon was a real baseball player for the Sox, a real person, and there is obviously some embellishment about the handsomeness and all this other stuff. But yeah, so our Trisha, in this story is indeed diehard baseball fan, just like her father. Tom Gordon is her favorite baseball player, and so she basically she starts seeing him at one particular point, but she sees a lot of people. She sees her friend Pepsi. She sees, I don't know, a few other, family members and whatnot as she's in the woods for longer and starts eating weird berries, and who knows that they're making her trip out and all this other stuff. And eventually she starts to think that there is some sort of evil presence, I'm trying to remember what she calls it. She calls it the god of the wasps or something crazy like that. Yeah, it's the god of the lost. And it has very similar aspects to Bob Gray, Pennywise, whatever you want to classify it as, just the way that they describe this creature. Also similar to Tack from Desperation and Dandelo from Dark Tower 7. And so you get the vibe that this weird presence in the woods that starts following her after a while, and it takes the form of a bear at one particular point. But it's weird because you never really know for sure. King keeps it ambiguous enough, especially as it becomes more and more evident, or does it, Who knows? Is she hallucinating from the dehydration, from the pneumonia, from the malnutrition, from being lost in the woods for over a week, man? And she's 9 freaking years old. It's really crazy. And yet what gets her through is putting on the headphones, besides the surge and the Twinkies and her smashed tuna sandwich and all these other things. The stuff that gets her through is listening through her headphones to the signal from Boston that she's still able to pick up of, her favorite team putting their socks on and getting ready to get down. So apologies to all you Yankees fans or haters of all of the Boston sports teams because they've seen a renaissance of success in the last decade or so. And, the Red Sox especially, King wrote that book Faithful, and, it was all about that season where somehow, some way they finally broke the curse. And since breaking the curse, the Red Sox have actually been pretty damn good. But once again, I don't follow baseball. So I like that discussion about the sub-audible. Even though I'm not a fan of baseball, I prefer football or, football real. Basically, we call it soccer for whatever stupid reason here in the United States. But I played soccer and basketball all growing up. So those are my 2 sports. Baseball, not my sport. But I like all of the sports references, to baseball that are thrown out, throughout the entirety of this. It's like, she says to herself at one particular point, if Tom gets the save, she will be saved. She tells herself that. And lo and behold, Tom gets the save in that first game that she's listening to. And it's against all odds, too. Like, she didn't even think he was going to be brought in until the Red Sox start making kind of this miraculous comeback against the Yanks. And then, lo and behold, he gets the save. And yet they still lose a few more games. But it's that first game that just gives her that hope and that determination. And, I like the whole discussion of, Trisha has, she's got ice water in her veins, just like Tom Gordon. And, boy, what else? There was a couple others. What was the secret to closing? You could be beaten, but you must not beat yourself. I always thought that as somebody who's into like the whole, like, uplifting motivational sports movies like Victory with Michael Caine, and Sylvester Stallone, and Pele is one of my favorite sports movies of all time. It's about these POWs during World War II that stage a soccer game with the Nazis that have them in captivity. That's an awesome movie. I love shizzle like, the Mighty Ducks and the Big Green and Little Giants. I mean, they don't really make those rags to riches sports stories like they used to, at least not as much anymore. Obviously, everybody knows Rocky, and then Creed a couple of years ago was really good, far better than Creed 2. In my opinion. So yeah, I mean, it's that whole against all odds, and really a 9-year-old girl lost in the woods all by herself. That is definitely an against all odds scenario, man, especially when you take into consideration the fact that she's being stalked by this god of the lost, this crazy creature made of wasps, and where there is one scene in particular where they talk about it could just pounce on her right away, and yet it doesn't. And it doesn't because of the fact that it wants her to become fearful, and it wants the meat to get sweetened because it sweetens the meat when the young ones are scared and, victims are afraid and all this other stuff. What does that sound like? Of course, it sounds just like it. It sounds just like Pennywise, Bob Gray, whatever the hell you want to classify her as. But and she starts coming across crazier things as she's going through the woods and trying to go down this brook, trying to just have some sort of course and path. And she ends up way off course than what any rescuer would think she has gone to. She ends up in New Hampshire at one particular point, and she just keeps going. She finds decapitated deer heads. So she knows that there is indeed a crazed creature in the vicinity that could potentially be after her. She has a really weird dream in one particular point that I really dug, where she sees these 3 robed-like figures. I think one is in a white robe and the other 2 are in black robes. And this is where, they talk about, it's like a wasp priest, like under the robe is like, all these different wasps, and she'd been attacked by some at one particular point. That's where we first get the title, the God of the Lost. And there's another instance where she sees this crow hanging upside down and clawing at her. And of course, who the hell isn't going to immediately think, oh, does Flag have any part in this of some particular sort? Is it that level of the tower? Does he have something to do with orchestrating this? Could he have taken on another form and be calling himself, the God of the Lost? I mean, he did take, as Martin, and he's taken on like the whole priestly thing before. I mean, look at Eyes of the Dragon, where he was like the sorcerer of sorts and whatnot. So I don't know. There's lots of different theories, and people like the whole Children of the Corn, Walking Behind the Rose, that could have been Flag as well. So there's no definite answer here, but it's fun to have this sort of discussion and whatnot. So I've been railing about this story for quite a while. It's not an absolute favorite, but it is one that I actually have enjoyed with taking another peek at it. So I'm going to jump back to the comments and see who else is filtered through. So who do we got? Who do we got? All right. Curtis says, on your very first read through of A Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, what scene in the book stuck out most to you? Well, the scene that stuck out most to me was on my first read through. It was probably when we first realized that there's an otherworldly presence in these woods that is after her. And that was really what I remember the most, the sweetening of the meat and being like, oh, it's just like in It. That is definitely, it happens early on. It's within the first 100 pages or so that we realize, okay, beyond facing just the harshness of the elements, and thankfully this doesn't happen at some ungodly time of year where the weather is going to be a significant factor. She was blessed in that accord, or else she would not have made it over a week like she does in this book. But yeah, that was really the scene that stuck out to me. And then the ending scene as well, where there was the confrontation, where she finally finds a road and the creature appears to her and it's like holding what looks like a scepter of sorts. And when I hear scepters, I immediately think of Hereditary now for whatever goddamn reason, just the creepiness of the end of that movie. That had decapitations in it too, guys. But she thinks it's a bear at first, and then it stands on its hind legs, and then she realizes, nope, that's the god of the lost. And yet we never get the clear confirmation if there really is something out there, or if she's just tripping out from malnourishment and from, weird berries she's eaten that may have tripped her out. So yeah, those are the scenes that stuck out to me, Curtis. I remembered those going into rereading the book. I did not remember the discussion about the subaudible. That, once again, as I mentioned, is something that I really dig in this book. So, okay, Jacob says, yeah, I'm still here, just about hanging on, convinced Gianna to stay up with me, but she couldn't hang on like I did. I love this one. I often find King's shorter works much more engaging to me. And that's an interesting thing, Jacob, because of the fact that some people, they all too often say King sticks the landing. He never knows how the hell to end the story. I feel like with shorter works, that's where King actually has a much better ending. And there is no way in hell that you can talk shit about the ending of this book, because the ending of this book is beautiful. And all that I'm going to say, it's all I have to say. The ending of this story is great, and it's one of the best endings to any King story, at least in my personal estimation. What else we got? All right, Curtis is just saying what's up to him. All right, Malito says, I didn't read it this month, but I read it in February. Great little tale. It had some slow parts towards the end, but quite enjoyable. But yeah, definitely have to keep in mind, it's only a couple hundred pages. I mean, if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. Yeah, that's a McFly quote. But if you put your mind to it and you had 5-6 hours, you could probably just sit down and read this in an entire day. I mean, the audiobook is only 6 hours if you're listening to it at 1.5 speed like I typically do. Because with the audiobooks, seriously, if you're listening at the regular speed, they talk like this. And it's for people who have a slower recognition of. So I always speed things up to at least 1.25 or 1.5. At 1.5, you can breeze through this book in a good 4 hours or so. So what else do we got? All right. Now we have Daniel Corey. Long day, sir. Didn't get a chance to reread this before today. I thought it was decent, lower tier, but decent. Yeah, it's lower tier. It's like you have to consider this for what it is. It's a novella. It's a novelette, and it's not really much beyond that, but still very fun, and it's a cool read. Do I watch Channel Awesome? Ask the Dream Master. No, I don't watch Channel Awesome. I'm not sure what that is. CK2D says, I'm pretty sure his shorter works, Cycle of the Werewolf, is another one that marked transitions in his writing. Yeah, most definitely. And I think Cycle of the Werewolf is totally underrated. Blockade Billy I actually really like. And to be honest, I really didn't mind Elevation. It just wasn't even long enough to warrant a novella or a novelette in my estimation. But I definitely liked it a whole lot better than I liked Wendy's Button Box. And no offense to the Cemetery Dance crew, but I would probably put my dislike of that story more on Richard Chismar than I would the King. But that's just me personally, Yeah, the sub-audible metaphor was pretty clever. I definitely dug that. Cheers from Italy, Jacob. From Malito, yes. All right, JP Pruitt, OMG, first live chat. Yeah, you made it, Joshua. What's up, dude? Okay, is Tom Gordon a name that most people would recognize in 2019? Not a huge baseball fan, just curious. No, honestly, I don't even think Red Sox fans today, excuse me, would actually recognize who the hell Tom Gordon is. He was a closer in the late 90s, early 2000s for the Red Sox, and I mean, that's really about it. He was never like a big star or anything like that. Closers often don't have the same recognition of a starting pitcher anyway. But then again, I'm not a baseball fan, so oh well. What else we got? I didn't, and I work in baseball. I did know the nickname Flash. Yeah, so they called him Flash Gordon because obviously, Flash Gordon from those films. And I'm trying to remember if that was comic books or not, or what the source material, if they were novels, whatever. Other short ones, according to CK2D, Gunslinger, Gwendy's, and Colorado Kid. I actually really like Colorado Kid. Really like Joyland. I think that's another shorter work that ends pretty well and that I really dig. Yep, JP Period says Blockade Billy. We were talking about that in the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group. Scott Baker! Yo, yo, yo! I was still waiting on the other stream. Haha, what's up, folks? Yeah, sorry, Scott. I had issues with the fact that YouTube started up this new stream beta, and the stream beta was configured to Cecil's computer as opposed to my computer here at the Chiron Cavern. And so that it's something new. YouTube, I feel like every few weeks, few months, whatever, they change up the Creator Studio a little bit. It's just frustrating. So sorry for giving everybody the runaround. That was not the intention. Mark Pearson, goddamn, I missed the start. Hope you're well, peeps. Mark Pearson, congratulations, good sir, on your beautiful daughter, man. Much love from myself and the entire YOU the Ka-Tet. And yes, you have big things ahead of you, sir. Very happy for you, man. Okay, once again, no, it was published in 1986. Okay. I'm not sure what that's a pertinence to. Yeah, 30 years or so ago, says JP Purich. The pop-up book is a nice supplement to the story. Very cool little book. Yeah, I'm actually going to take a peek at that right now. I'm always impressed with how well King writes kids, to be honest. I completely concur, which is another one of the reasons, Jacob, why I'm really stoked to see what he does with the Institute. Originally, I was just like, so Stranger Things rips off Stephen King, and now Stephen King is ripping off Stranger Things. He's just going back. It's the Wheel of Ka. He's going back to the well. But honestly, the more I think about it, the more I'm hoping the kids are breakers. There's so many different ways that they could go with this. And King has always written kids so very well, whether it's The Body, whether it's It, or this. He really wrote this very well, especially the discussion of Trish's friendship with Pepsi and, just skirting around F-bombs and liking the boy bands and the Spice Girls and all this different stuff. So funny. I don't think you could write children very well unless you had kids yourself. And so that's where, especially having 3 of them and just all of the years of raising. And he obviously did pretty damn good because all 3 of his kids, between the minister, between the 2 authors, King and Tobby, they did a damn good job with those kids, I would assess. So, yep, Charlie from Firestarter, Losers Club, all such wonderful characters. Spot on, good sir, spot on. Mark Pearson read this in the hospital about 15 years ago, definitely needs a reread. Scott Baker says, I agree, Jacob. He seems to tap into that time of life very, very well. Yeah, King is a nostalgic dude, in my estimation. He really, really is. And he is always, even think back to Carrie. Carrie was about a girl in high school, So he obviously had some pointers from his wife in that department. Sir Pruitt says, I could totally relate to this story, using sports to escape a broken home environment and things to reel fast. Yeah, I agree. I liked even though I'm not a baseball fan, I liked all of the analogies, the allegories, all of that fun stuff. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. We have 15 people chilling in the chat. But what I'm going to do right now is I set that down. That's actually the spot on the shelf somewhere around there that is supposed to go. We're going to take a look at this since the comments have kind of frozen down. So check it out. So we start out with this, which is pretty dope. So there we are. And you can see there is the brother and the mother. And then there she is lagging in the back, just, kind of getting lost. Pretty dope. Pre-game, Mom's knuckles were white on the steering wheel, a typical mom weekend sight. Dad weekends meant hanging out at the old house in Malden near Boston, doing normal hanging out things. Mom weekends meant expeditions in the caravan. Mom and Pete, Trisha's older brother, arguing up front. Trisha in back wondering if constant family fighting could drive you crazy. Pete wanted to live with Dad so he could go back to his old school with his flock of computer nerds like him. Up in Maine, where the 3 of them had moved after the divorce, compu dorks were in short supply. And Pete was, and this is the cool thing, each of these, they open up to even more cool shizzle. So it opens up, and as you can see, we get more. Yeah, we actually have them in the car. This is such a dope book, man. Oh, I love it. I love it. He wasn't about to suck it up, soldier on, make lemonade out of lemons, or any of those things adults were so good at. In theory, Trisha knew Pete better than that. He was going to keep complaining. Mom was going to massage her temples so her head wouldn't explode, and Trisha, she was going to block them out. The best method was to fantasize about Tom Gordon. To get the fantasy started, she took off her Red Sox cap and gazed at Tom Gordon's signature on the brim. Tom Gordon, the closer, was Trisha's favorite Red Sox player and her dad's. Dad had explained the importance of the closer, the pitcher who came on at the end to save the game, ice water in his veins. Now in the back of the caravan, a Tom Gordon scene sprang up in Trisha's mind. A scene with Tom showing up at the playground near her house in Sanford, Maine, a little lost, buying her a hot dog in return for directions. Bliss. The only thing she didn't like about Tom Gordon was his nickname, Flash. There was nothing flashy about him, just the opposite. Number 36 stood so still and dignified on the mound, all by himself when everything was on the line. And then so it goes, so that's another thing that I really dig about this book is each chapter goes from, you got pregame, and then you've got inning when you got first inning, second inning, third inning, and he goes like top of the third and then bottom of the third. So he does break certain innings into like separate chapters, which is pretty dope. But I mean, there is just so much to take in here. I mean, even for the first inning, you open it, and this is how you read through everything. I mean, I was originally thinking I was going to try to go through this entire book, but it would just be far too much. And then there's like cool little hidden bits. I mean, geez, this is beyond dope, guys. I love this book, man. It is so cool. So we've got next up, second inning, which, jumps in here. And I mean, the illustrations throughout are really, really cool. And they give you just such a sense of just wonder, but also, I mean, just look at the sheer scale here. This is where she's initially getting lost, and you're just seeing the full extent. Like, man, I'm getting like beyond captivated here, just looking at all of this. I mean, we have her little Walkman here, man. It's dope. It's super, super dope. Next, we've got, yeah, I think this is an old thumbnail of mine from this. I think I ended up using as the thumbnail when I was doing my King collection. Like, you just see the extent of the forestry. So badass, man. I love the hell out of this. And there's Tom Gordon appearing to her, and like you open this up and you get, oh, there's those creepy robed mofos that I was talking about. So it was actually 2 white and 1 black. So that's the God of the Lost making his first appearance in there with her. And then, yeah, when she's drinking the bad water, and of course it gets her sick. That's no bueno. But once again, just the amount of detail that we have here. I mean, check it out. There he is making his little appearance. And then this comes out here, and there she is, and she's eating the fish that she's like fishing out of the stream and stuff. I mean, I have no idea how much this actually goes for online at this particular point, but yeah. And then there's the abandoned vehicle that she finds, and she's originally thinking she's going to sleep in it, but it's been out there like seriously into the wild style, like you've ever seen that movie that Ed Vedder did the score and the soundtrack for. Yeah, 8th inning opens up, and yeah, there's our little look at one of the creatures. Yeah, there he is, kind of hiding behind the window over there. Man, I love this book. This is definitely there we go. There's like a little bit better of an idea of what we're dealing with here. Like, let's see how well y'all can check him out. Well, without totally jacking this up too much. There he is. How well can we see him? Yeah, there you go. Auto lighting. That's our little crazy wasp leader, God of the Lost, whatever you want to classify him as. And she ends up just throwing, like seriously throwing the, that is dope. I forgot about this. Sorry guys, I'm like geeking out. Check it. Yeah. So there it is coming at her. And she's like, no way, man. I'm going to throw this pitch at you. I'm going to pitch this Walkman at you, and I'm going to ward you away with that. And man, it's so dope. And there he is at the very end, hanging out with her. Yeah, it's such a great book, man. If you have any inclination, interest, or ability to track this down, Stephen King's award-winning best-selling novel, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, is stunningly told in this, the first pop-up book by the master of suspense. And I really wish they would do more of these because this is super rad. It is a fairy tale grimmer than grim, retold with intricate pop-ups and a breathtaking text. This is the ultimate must-have edition for Stephen King fans of all ages, based on the novel by Stephen King. Text adaptations, though, by Peter Abrahams, illustrations by Alan Dingman, paper engineering by Keys Morby. I loved these as a kid. I thought they were super, super cool. And this is definitely one that I'm very, very happy to have in my collection, y'all. So, yeah, that is a little peek at that special edition of none other than The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. So I'm assuming since this was originally going to be a children's book, maybe this is how they still got their children's book out of Cy King. They were just like, yeah, we're just going to have somebody adapt it and take some of the more controversial things out of it and, so on and so forth. So there you go, everybody. That's a quick peek at that. Let's see where everyone is at in the comments, discussion, what have you. Okay. Daniel Corey says, I agree about how well written Trisha is in this book. Very realistic. Need to track down that pop-up book. Wasn't Charlie the Choo-Choo a pop-up book as well? Or is it just a normal storybook? Yeah, unfortunately, Charlie the Choo-Choo, as you see right up there, hiding behind Bob Gray. Bob Gray, none other than Tim Curry style. It's not a pop-up book. It would have been really badass if it was, though. Okay. I like the Red Sox. I like that the Red Sox wall is called the Green Monster. And there is a natural green monster. Yeah, exactly. My son would destroy that pop-up book in about 2 seconds. Very cool, though. Yeah, that's the thing. They're like, it's for kids. No, unfortunately, I remember very well being in kindergarten and looking at some of the pop-up books, and a shizload of the pop-ups had been like shredded and ripped out and were torn away. And I was like, oh, but I wanted to see what those pages had, man. So, yeah, what are you going to do, though? I think Charlie the Choo-Choo was a regular storybook. Correct you are, Scott. OMG, show the monster in the pop-up. Yeah, there you go. Imagine a whole series of King short story pop-up books. I think that somebody in an older Hail to Stephen King actually asked me what I would have wanted to see turned into a pop-up book. And boy, man, what would make a good pop-up? Maybe Cujo would be good. I think Condensed Salem's Lot could be cool as a pop-up book. Maybe even Lacey's story with the whole like jumping back and forth. And I mean, hell, anything Dark Tower pop-up related, that would be awesome. How about From the Wind Through the Keyhole? Yeah, that would be the story within a story within a story would be dope. Eyes of the Dragon would be badass as a pop-up book. Oh, yeah. I definitely concur with that sentiment. Yeah. Jacob says exactly what I was thinking. Pert Minded, what's up, horror show? Okay, Paso, good sir. What is going with you? Okay, or a Miss pop-up. Miss pop-up would be good too. It would have to be a short story or novella/novelette. I think that, yeah, man, The Mist would be perfect as a pop-up book, especially with the pop-ups of the creatures and everything. That would be sick. I would be sick with it. Okay. What else do we have here? I wanted to recommend this horror anime called The Promised Neverland. It's a masterpiece. Interesting. Okay. Nightmares in the Sky would be cool. I don't know if that would count. Well, I mean, there's no narrative in Nightmares in the Sky. It's just pictures of gargoyles and crazy stuff like that. So, yeah. So that is at least all that I have to gush about and rave about with regards to The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. I think I hit all of the different points that I wanted to. There is one line that comes back quite a few times, and I think is pretty dope. The world had teeth, and it could bite you with them anytime it wanted. That's a line that I think the book opens up with it, and then it's also reiterated at another particular point later on in the story. And I was amused the whole time where she kept humming to herself, "Who do you call when your windshield's busted? 1-800-54-GIANT." Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much everything that I wanted to say about this. Once again, it is a short story, and it's somewhere between. Well, it's not a short story. It's a shorter tale, and it says a novel on here. This is a novelette. This is a novella. It's short enough to be classified with that particular distinction. But yeah, guys, I guess everything is essentially going to shift into borderline AMA at this particular point. If you have something Cy King related or whatever else, at least for this last. We've still got a little bit of time. Well, probably about 10 to 15. A little bit more, a little bit less, depending on if anybody has some shizzle to say. But I do have a couple announcements, including first and foremost what the next book of the month is going to be for the month of April. Let's see. CK2D says pop-up graveyard shift and the rats. Yeah, that could be dope. I think I would be quite excited about that. I feel like Goosebumps deserves a reboot there. So much potential for a dark Carly Beth story. I'm trying to remember which one Carly Beth was about, but if I'm at least going to briefly rattle off my affinity for Goosebumps, before I shifted into Kristopher Pike and then later on Cy King and stuff like that. Yeah, Goosebumps was my jam in the grade school, man. And I mean, Welcome to the Dead House. Boy, what else? Piano Lessons Can Be Murder, Ghost Beach. Like, those are a few that I really, really enjoyed. Say Cheese and Die was another one that I thought was pretty badass. And Polaroid was a movie that was essentially ripping off that premise, and it's been permanently living on the shelf with no release date for like the longest time at this point. Everybody's wondering what the hell is happening with that. Haunted Mask was pretty good. Monster Blood was pretty good. Night of the Living Dummy was pretty good. But yeah, those would be probably my top 5 of the ones that I read, because as I got older, I think I stopped Goosebumps around like book 25 or 30, maybe it was closer to 50, but the ones that still stand out in my mind: Welcome to the Dead House, Ghost Beach, Piano Lessons Can Be Murder, Say Cheese and Die, and I mean, I guess Night of the Living Dummy or Monster Blood, one of those particular two. Don't Go in the Basement, I think that was another one that I kind of liked, but in any event, okay, The Haunted Mask, Nightmare. Okay, Jacob's like, do you think we'll get another King short story at the end of the year, this year after the Institute, like we have in the last few years? Boy, that would be badass, but I kind of have a sneaking suspicion that with the fact that the Institute is so long and that it's coming out in the fall as opposed to in the summer like The Outsider did, I'm really thinking that they're going to give all these different King adaptations some room to breathe. I actually just got done today writing up the description for the panel that I'm going to be leading at the Phoenix Comic Convention, which is called Stephen King and the Year of 19. Very, very stoked for that. You guys want to hear what I got for that? It's a fun little brief idea. So this is essentially what I've got. Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. We are known on this level of the tower as The Horror Show, and if it please you, join our YouTube channel for a bit of palaver all about Stephen King in this monumental year of 19. From remakes and sequels on television and film to a monstrous new novel, 2019 will be like none other for constant readers, both new and old. So that's what's going to be printing in all the pamphlets. So if y'all are anywhere near the Arizona area, the Memorial Day weekend, that's where myself, Cecil, and Marsha Parker, I think it's going to be the 3 of us, and then maybe one special 4th guest for the Stephen King panel. But we're also going to be doing panels about horror feels, like moments in horror that just really man, were like heartbreaking sorts of moments. So that's something that we're pretty excited about. We have a couple others, and so yeah, it's gonna be pretty dope. Very excited about that. But obviously, being the year of 19 and getting to do a year of 19 Stephen King panel with all of my sweaty cohorts and awesome horror sci-fi comic book nerdiness. Phoenix Comic Con is one of the 5 biggest comic conventions in the country, and it's gonna be pretty dope. So I'm quite excited about that. Jumping back to the commentee stuff. All right, AMC aired a sneak of the first episode of Nosferatu today. Are you excited about the June 2nd release date? Of course, I'm pumped as hell, man. And unfortunately, I'm holding off on excuse me. I'm holding off on watching the full trailer that they just released today until tomorrow, because we do the predominance of our filming on Sundays when we get the whole crew together. So we're going to be reacting to Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which was another thing that was nightmare fodder for me as a child. We're also going to be doing a couple other trailers, including the full Nosferatu trailer. Curtis, I actually did not know that they aired a sneak of the first episode of Nosferatu today. That honestly makes me wonder if it's floating around online, and if it's floating around online somewhere, I'm going to find it, and I'm going to watch it like right now, because if myself and Cecil and Marsha, because all 3 of us have read that flippin' awesome book, if we could get a review of that up, months ahead of time, that would trend very, very well for us, and that's really, really what it's all about. What else do we got here? Scott Baker says, how about the new Pet Sematary 4K Blu-ray release? You planning to pick it up, Fuego? Yes, I picked it up a couple days ago. I did not opt for the Steelbook because I don't have 4K, and I was able to get it for $10 cheaper just getting the Blu-ray, but it's got some terrific special features, including, most notably, a great new interview with Mary Lambert, the director. The restoration looks really cool, really cool. I'm excited about that. And also, before I forget, I'm actually going to be guesting along with Cecil this Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on the Will Escridia YouTube channel. Our buddy CP and occasionally his lady, helps him out on that channel, and he has guests every week, and it's like kind of a box office breakdown of sorts thing that he does. So they discuss the previous weekend and how all the different films fared. I'm very curious how Dumbo is going to do. But he also looks ahead to the upcoming weekend, which includes Pet Sematary, the remake. Just to let everybody know as well, besides Cecil and I being on that show on Monday evening, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 9 Eastern, on Wednesday, April 3rd, we have our early press screening for Pet Sematary. So on the evening of April 3rd, so this Wednesday, we are going to be going live, and we are going to be doing a live non-spoiler review of the new Pet Sematary reimagining, remake, whatever the hell you want to call it. I don't really like the term remake. I like a reinterpretation. That's what I'm going into it with that mentality as. I'm very excited for the film. The buzz has been good. I have not read any reviews, watched any reviews. I'm going in with really just that head-turning trailer that gave an idea as to one change that they're making to the film. But as Nico said, the kid who played, the original Gage in the original film, Cecil and I and Susie talked with him at the Mad Monster Charlotte convention, and he said something very intriguing. If you haven't watched that interview, which you really should, Cecil did a great interview with him. Cecil and I bartered, and he's like, you interview Adrian Barbeau, and I'm going to talk with Nico, because he actually knew a few other films that he had been in, like Spawn and Mercury Rising and a few other things. But he's obviously, really the most known for New Nightmare and for Pet Sematary. But he said something very interesting. He proposed, who says it's just Ellie? Who says it's just Ellie that dies? Who's to say Lewis doesn't die? Who's to say that both kids don't die at some particular point? And that excites me. Going into this film, not exactly knowing what the hell it's going to do. I loved Starry Eyes. I thought that movie was really great until the third act. And even that wasn't that bad. It was just, it really, really started out strong. And so for that reason, I have to make mention. So this Monday night, Cecil and I will be on the Will Escridia YouTube channel. So if you get the chance, jump on there and subscribe, and make sure to check us out 6 p.m. Pacific Standard, 9 p.m. Eastern for that. And also this Wednesday, April 3rd, we're going to be doing our spoilers discussion. So I think I have seen, okay, I started just jibber-jabbering and I lost sight of the comments. So, all right. Man, try and adapt The Lawnmower Man as a pop-up book. Well, Jacob, they did it as a comic book, and Marvel did that back in the day. I've got it sitting on the shelf down there. It's interesting. Maybe I'll show that off at some particular point. Okay, what else do we have? No. Okay, dude, let's hear it. Love it. That was awesome, brother. It's good. Stoked to see the crew's reaction video. Okay. Daniel Curry, I've never read any Joe Hill. Does it make sense to start with Nosferatu? Honestly, you could start with Nosferatu, but I wouldn't recommend it because of the fact that Nosferatu actually has a reference to Horns, the previous book, and it also has a reference to Heart-Shaped Box. Now, granted, it's just a little Easter egg reference, but I really recommend, just like with Cy King, reading Joe Hill in published order. Start with 20th Century Ghosts, then go Heart-Shaped Box, Horns, and Nosferatu. Also, the Fireman ties in with both the Tower and, the lead character is drinking Nosla Cola, for God's sake, in the Fireman. And there's references to a few other cool things. There's what I interpreted as some twinny characters in the Fireman that correspond, like a character named Harold, for instance, that is very similar to the character of Harold in the Stand. So definitely don't start with Nosferatu if you don't have to, because I love Heart-Shaped Box. I love Horns. I'm actually waiting on, I pre-ordered many months ago, Suntup, S-U-N-T-U-P Press. They are doing a really badass deluxe edition of Horns that's illustrated and signed by Joe Hill, and I'm really, really excited about that. So yes, don't start with Nosferatu just because of the fact that we're about to get the series. You have until June, man. Seriously, read Heart-Shaped Box. The only one that you don't necessarily have to read ahead of time is 20th Century Ghosts, because it's all short stories. But yeah. Okay. Thank you for doing this. We appreciate all the work you guys put into it. Well, I'm just exceedingly appreciative, just like I'm sure I speak for the entire horror show crew, Cecil, Marsha, Susie, myself, and the extended family, obviously, that entails Andrew Mercer, Luis Hernandez, producer Dave, which the show would be, nothing without him starting it up with Cecil and everything. And, he still helps out a lot behind the scenes. So yeah, you guys are appreciated. Say thank you so very much. They aired it at a special event. Oh, Curtis, yeah, they aired it at WonderCon, man. So that's where it aired. So unless somebody bootlegs it, we're going to have to wait until June. So Purple Mind, Perp Minded says, would you agree? Us is this generation's The Shining. I know they're two different films. Hell no. Not a chance. Okay, now I have to get to John Kyle Stanton because he was actually kind enough to donate $10 to this stream. Thank you so very much, John. You constantly crack me up. Hey, man, you did a great job looking like Axl Rose in the Dirt review. Axl and Fuego, my alter ego. I'm a huge Guns N' Roses fan, and I was for many, 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 many years. I even love Chinese Democracy. How about that? As time has gone on, I've grown to prefer the Use Your Illusion albums to Appetite and Lies. But yeah, I'm a big GNR fan. So if you guys have any interest in seeing me cover stuff beyond horror, beyond Stephen King, in Fuegotainment on YouTube is where you can find me doing all kinds of reviews. I actually have another review coming up for The Beach Bum, which is a piece of shit. Okay, Curtis says, WonderCon. Yep, it was WonderCon, correct. Jacob says, Daniel, I started with Nosferatu, and I think it's his best work personally. So yeah, you can start there, man. No real need to read his stuff in order. Well, I guess Jacob and I disagree. And really, I guess you could start with Nosferatu. Jacob is correct. It's really just, there's 2 Easter eggs. Well, it's actually 3 because there's Easter eggs to it as well. But I guess you don't ultimately have to. Mark Pearson says, I'm there, dude. Awesome, awesome. Jacob once again says to Fuego, not me. Just read Joe Hill, man. He's worth reading, and I rank his work so highly. I agree. Apple did not fall very far from the tree. Adam Snook, sup, fam? How much to shave your head? No. Okay. If anything, I would go back to my hair in high school, which is when I was a punk rocker, and I'd like friggin' mohawk it or something. Because I grew up listening to when I wasn't hearing classic rock in the car, like CCR and the Doors and George Thorogood and stuff with my pops. It was most definitely punk rock, man. Bad Religion, still my favorite band. Or early Offspring, Black Flag with Keith Morris, like the Everything Went Black compilation. Minor Threat, Dead Kennedys. Yeah, that was my stuff. I was a punk rocker growing up, and then I got into girls, and yeah, I became like emo punker and started listening to stuff like that. But I'm not going to tell you what bands those were. Okay, what else we got? This season of The Walking Dead is dope. I'm loving the whispers. Perp-minded, yeah, we're trying collectively, Perp, to get caught up by the season finale here at the very end because they're implementing winter for the first goddamn time. I know that they finally put a bunch of people's heads on spikes. Don't spoil if they put Ezekiel's head on there or not, because I haven't caught up there just yet. Also, we have to start watching. Boy, we're trying to get caught up on our Patreon. We just did a bunch of reviews for people who are no longer even patrons, like Scott Baker, shout out, man. Did a bunch of stuff for Mikey Mnemonic, for Nick Oakes, so shout out to those guys. But yeah, we got to watch Santa Clarita Diet 3, where there's just way too much stuff to cover, guys. Genuinely way too much stuff to cover, but we're trying our damnedest. Oops, meant to listen to Fuego. Haha, my phone spazzed out. No, man, Jacob, difference of opinion. Nosferatu is probably his best. Heart-Shaped Box is really, really close for me, though. And honestly, even though a lot of people had problems with it because of the 20 similarities, I love The Fireman. I think it's great. Horns is amazing, too. But Chris Bethel, guess this is almost over. I couldn't get on until now. Yes, we had some technical difficulties, unfortunately. I'm trying, man, let's get some. The auto lighting adjustment is really just driving me nuts on this guy. So I apologize. Cecil is going to ream me for this. Even though the lighting was great at one point, I think it's because of the fact that I'm doing this as the sun is starting to set outside here in Phoenix. And so the natural light that was coming through some of the curtains is starting to fade. So, well, good thing we're nearing the end of the stream. We've already almost been going for about an hour. So I'm going to have to wrap it up at some point here soon. Okay, West Texas Nomad. Jaime, you need to react to the new Annabelle Comes Home trailer. Well, that's the thing. We have Annabelle. We have Scary Stories to Tell in Dark. We have the Nosferatu full trailer. So we have a bunch of stuff that you will be seeing us reacting to. Tomorrow we're filming them, and you will see them interspersed throughout the coming days on the channel. Heart-Shaped Box is amazing, says Curtis. Yeah. Heart-Shaped Box was the first novel of his that I read, and man, just Judas Coin is a great character. Great character. Okay, San Fran 49er fan 93. Our teacher read us Tom Gordon in the 5th grade, loved it, and introduced me to Cy King. That's awesome. And this is actually one of the few that I definitely think it's not a children's book, you know, like Charlie the Choo Choo is. So that's where I stand on that. It's a really good introduction for younger readers. It definitely is. Curtis says, The Fireman, I wish we could talk about the ending right now. Yeah, I wish we could too. I love the ending to that book. I think it's great. JP Pruitt, my service sucks. Did we say next book? Nope, I'm going to end the stream with that right here since we have been going for just about an hour. I agree, April is so packed from movies like Endgame to TV. Yeah, Twilight Zone actually premieres on Monday. There's my lighting. The hell? So aggravating. Anyway, anime with Attack on Titan. Yeah, there's a ton of stuff going down. But since I've already been going for nearly an hour, guys, yes, might not hype this. Yeah, Game of Thrones too, which I haven't even watched Game of Thrones, but the cohort co-hosts are trying to implore me to just binge those first few seasons, first 6 or 7 seasons of Game of Thrones, something like that. Okay, so yeah, that's fun, that's cool, that's exciting. But yeah, I'm gonna set this down because it is time to announce the book of the month for April, and it is none other than Cy King's very first book, Carrie. So this is another one, everybody, that is not going to entail a massive dedication of time. I forgot just how this is in nice condition. This is one of my prized possessions. It's like near mint, first printing. Yeah, I love this. I love this one. It's been a while since I've read it though, and it's weird because this book is essentially, in a lot of ways, there's journal entries, there's doctor's reports, there's newspaper clippings, there's all kinds of cool stuff. But here in the month of April, we are celebrating the 45th anniversary of King's first novel. Yeah, he had some short stories that were previously published and stuff like Cavalier and a few other like men's magazines and smaller newspapers and things like that. But yes, in April of 1974, that's right, Carrie was first published, the one that his wife basically implored him to take out of the trash. So Carrie, our April book of the month here on Hail to Stephen King. So I guess that is really going to wrap things up, everybody. I have some editing to do, and then I have a couple films to watch tomorrow that we will be doing Patreon reviews for. So what do I have to watch tonight? Lord of Illusions, and then and that actually reminds me of something fun. So I have to watch Lord of Illusions again tonight, which I didn't particularly like when I watched it the first few times when I was growing up, and I even watched it a few years ago, and it still doesn't stick with me. And I also have to watch Spring, which is the second movie from the guys who did Resolution and most recently The Endless. I love those two movies. And then I also did a segment on the third VHS film. But yes, with regards to Mr. Clive Barker. So everybody knows that I did a program called, obviously this is Hail to Stephen King, but anytime I've covered Joe Hill stuff, I have started calling it Run to the Hill. And that was actually a suggestion from a viewer by the name of Bert Vedder, if I remember correctly. I think it was Bert. But the movie Dutch Geek, as he is known on Twitter. But now that I've read all of the Joe Hill stuff, except for the finishing up the comic reviews like Lock and Key and stuff, but I've read all of the published like fiction, you know. So it's time. It's time to start a new author, and I just started it this week. This is a good homie of Stephen King's, Mr. Clive Barker. And I have never read the Books of Blood before. I've read a couple things here and there. So I think I read The Midnight Meat Train at one particular point. I want to say maybe I've read Rawhead Rex. Maybe I read Hellbound Heart and Cabal. I can't remember. But I have not like properly immersed myself in the world of Barker. And he is the next author that I am going to be doing a separate segment on the channel covering his literature in published order. So I picked up a copy of The Damnation Game. This is the first 3 Books of Blood. And yes, so I'm going to be doing a segment that I am calling Barker at the Moon. Yeah, everything has to have a silly title, doesn't it? So if you're into Clive Barker, somebody who Stephen King proclaimed as it even says here on the back, he was hailed by Stephen King as the future of horror in the 1980s when this collection first came out and won the dude a ton of acclaim. So you're in the Barker, I'm going to be doing some Barker coverage along with the King coverage, along with the Joe Hill coverage. Joe Hill has a new book. I believe it's called Full Throttle. That's coming out later this year, and it's going to have a bunch of short stories and smaller tales collected. I cannot wait for that. So that's going to be an upcoming Run to the Hill segment in a few months once that comes out. But yeah, I'm still going to be rolling with the Hail to Stephen King stuff. Very excited about the 150th episode. That is going to be just a couple weeks away. And I'm still trying to nail down exactly what I want it to be, but I know that it has to be a live segment. So yeah, everybody, I'm just going to take one more peek at the comments before I pull the plug on all of this and get to editing for the night. Okay. Okay. Scott says, I'll be reactivating my patronage soon. I have a lot going on at the moment, but I love you guys. Scott, I love you too, man. Much respect and appreciate the support. Leftovers is a better show. That looks dope. Carrie, yay, exactly. I recommend the audiobook read by Sissy Spacek. Yeah, I'm actually, as I always do, with regards to Carrie, since I've read all of these, like read them, I've slowly been amassing every single Stephen King book on audio. So I've got Audible, and I've also used audiobooks.com. And then what's the name of the other service? That there's actually a streaming service called Scribd. So SCRIBD. And they're essentially a streaming version of audiobooks. So it's like the Netflix of audiobooks. So if you think that in the span, it's basically about what you would pay a month for a new Audible credit, but there's thousands, tens of thousands, in fact, including tons and tons of Cy King's work. I don't know if everything Cy King is on there streaming, but if you want to check out a bunch of different audiobooks, Scribd is a really good source. But I always divide my time now between the audiobook and between the book. And if it's a shorter entry, like with The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, I just do both. You know, I take a few days, I read the book, and then I also listen to the novel. So with Sissy Spacek reading it, that's pretty badass. I very much look forward to checking that out, says Chris Bethel. Mark Pearson says, yes, I've been meaning to read Carrie again. Yes, and so that's what we're going to do. Per Minded says, is Dr. Sleep really coming out this year? Yeah, dude. Dr. Sleep, they moved it from January 2020 to November of 2019. That's sweep season, man. That is Oscar season. They obviously, with Mike Flanagan directing, with Ewan McGregor starring as a grown-up Danny Torrance, they think this movie has some serious potential. Flanagan is coming off all the success of The Haunting of Hill House, and then before that, I mean, he did great things with Gerald's Game, so I'm supremely excited to see what he does with Dr. Sleep. Okay, it's been years since I read Carrie, and I'm enjoying the reread a lot. Okay, Kurt Minded says, wait, Mark Hamill is voicing the new Chucky? I didn't even know about that. I cannot wait for Full Throttle. Damn right. Jacob says, I'm excited for Full Throttle. Tad disappointing that it wasn't a full-length novel, though. Yeah, hasn't he announced, Jacob? I think he announced a new novel, but it's just not coming out this year. He's spacing it out a little bit. Still, he said on a live stream Q&A, full-length novel is coming in 2020. Yeah, that's funny. Just as I say it, you already have beaten me to the punch, good sir. And then he's coming back, and then he's off back to Lock and Key after that to do World War Key. Exciting time. Good time to be a fan of the King family in general. Well, they're very, very talented. Carlos C., a name that I haven't seen on here. Fuego, I've only read Salem's Lot, Pet Cemetery, and the Dark Tower series. What should I make my next read from King? Any recommendations? Boy, dude, if you haven't read The Stand or It, you need to read The Stand or It. You really, really do. If you want something shorter, boy, I mean, I would recommend the collection of shorts like Night Shift or Just After Sunset or Bizarre Bad Dreams. Yeah, man. I mean, yeah, I'd say The Eyes of the Dragon if you want something shorter. If you want an anthology, read Night Shift. But I mean, honestly, I would recommend just take the plunge, man. Read It or The Stand. They are life-changing. Have a good night and a good evening of editing, Fuego. Thank you so much, Malito. Appreciate you, broski. Much love, brother. Which interview was that? I want to watch it. Now oh yeah, there was I believe it was a Facebook Live Q&A. Jacob, correct me if I'm wrong. Go online. Phone is spazzing out. Haha. Go on his Facebook page and go on videos. It's on there. Yep, exactly. Okay, for sure. Appreciate it. Thanks, man. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to use that as the time to jump off the phone and give all of y'all a proper farewell. So I'm going to say thank you, gracias, and grande gracias, in fact, everybody. Thank you so very much for tuning in to this live Book of the Month edition of Hail to Stephen King. Make sure to like, share, subscribe here. If you have not already done that, hit the bell so that you get notifications about any time there is a new Hail on Tuesday or Saturday, or a new trailer reaction, film review, all the different stuff that I do with the amazing team that I am so proud to be a part of. That includes Cecil, Susie, and Masha Parker, and the entire extended family, Lou, Mercer, Dave, Dirk. So very stoked to be a part of the process here. Once again, if you want stuff besides horror that I cover, my personal YouTube channel is at Jaime and Fuego, just like my handle. But if you just search Infuegotainment on YouTube, you will get links to some videos. Most recently, I reviewed The Dirt, that Motley Crue piece of crap. And yeah, I do at least a few videos a week. I reignited that coverage just this past year. So yeah, if you want some further palaver with me that's not King related, jump on there. Check that out. It is greatly appreciated. And also, if you want to be a part of the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group, I'm the sole admin and moderator on there. So if you want further palaver with over 400 awesome, very closely knit Ka-Tet peeps on there, many of which are names I see in the chat right now. All that I ask is that we keep it primarily of the King clan, and yeah, that's about it. But we make exceptions for big things like Mark having a child. So congrats once again, my dude. And yes, I guess that's gonna wrap things up, y'all. So until the wheel of Ka comes around once more, I say hasta luego, sin amigos, and constant readers and viewers across the globe. Say thank you. I hope that we get some more palaver sooner rather than later. And until then, remember, stay scared and read Stephen King. If you can track this down, oh boy, pretty bitchin' read. Thanks, everybody. So very much appreciated. Yeah, this is not going to show up in the edited video. That's going to be floating around afterwards. But yeah, Barker at the moon. How about that shizzle? So, and anyway, everybody, much appreciated. And I will see y'all tomorrow. Peace out. Laters, laters.